This is easily the most dangerous sport in the world, and it suffered a horrible fate. Group B was a class within the Rally World Championship. If you're unfamiliar with rally driving, it's when drivers and a passenger navigator go as fast as possible through some of the sketchiest terrain in the world in order to get the fastest time. That means the driver is literally getting directions from the passenger as they drive over 100 miles per hour, sometimes on a tiny narrow dirt path. Now, the Rally World Championship is still alive and well today, but the Group B class is no more, and for good reason. Unlike the other groups in Rally, which had tight guidelines regarding every minor detail of the cars, it allowed car manufacturers to dump as much power as they'd like into the car and use any materials they wanted, creating the fastest rally cars in the world. It's where some of the greats were born, like the Audi Quattro, the Ford RS 2000, Lancia's 037 and Delta S4, the MG Metro, the Peugeot 205, and so many more. These cars were absolute monsters, and the guys driving them were pretty crazy too, but possibly nuttier than both were the fans. If you've ever seen old Group B rally footage, then you've seen fans literally standing in the path of these cars as they approach it well over 100 miles per hour. In fact, that was just part of the sport. The roads they raced on were public, unlike a real racetrack, and this allowed fans to just hang out wherever they'd like, with huge crowds gathered right against the course, or hanging from the trees, and of course, some were literally just straight up in the way. The drivers were well aware of the insane crowds, but since they were racing, they just kept it pinned when passing, expecting fans to just get out of their way. Most did, and some would just barely dodge the car on its way past, having to literally jump over it. But the fans became one of the biggest reasons why the sport was banned. The cars simply cut too close, and it all came crashing down in Portugal, 1986. The lead drivers had already made their runs, and most of the crowd had gone home, but there were still some waiting to cheer on the final drivers. Joaquim Santos was on a pretty good run, but sadly, a spectator stepped into the road, forcing Santos to try and swerve around him. This ended up with a massive snap of oversteer, which led him to crash into the crowd, killing 3 and injuring 30 others. Now, as horrible as the accident was, it didn't get Group B banned on the spot. Many drivers and teams decided to pull out for the rest of the Portuguese rally stage in order to control the situation and make sure no one else got hurt. They believed this decision would ultimately help the sport and keep it going, but that's sadly not the case. Not long after, at stage 18 in Corsica, Henry Tovinen, who was on his way to win the championship, and Sergio Cresto, his incredibly talented co-driver, were killed after their Lancia flew off the road on a tight left-hander, crashing onto its roof and then exploding. Immediately, teams like Audi and Ford pulled out, and other teams scrambled to try and figure out what to do. However, due to the obvious dangers and the lack of safety regulations, Group B met its horrible demise. And after the 1986 season, it was no more. If you want to see more car stories like this one, make sure you're subscribed.